Welcome everyone to Living with the Times. This week's Torah portion is Bechukotai, and it begins by saying, if you walk in my decrees and you guard my mitzvot and you do them. What follows is a whole series of beautiful blessings, how we will be able to live in the land securely, peacefully, productively. Everything will be good. Everything will be good. And then it says, but if you don't walk in my decrees and guard my mitzvot and do them, then there's a whole series of curses. There are actually 49 curses, which of course is connected to this time of year where we're counting 49 days of the Omer. And the theme throughout the curses is that if you don't walk in my ways and you ignore me and you turn away from me, then you will be paid 7 times back. In the book of Devarim, there is another series of blessing and curses in the Parsha Ki Tavo. And in fact, in other portions in the book of Devarim, Deuteronomy, the same theme is repeated again and again, that if you follow my ways, the ways of the Torah, the ways of the mitzvah, and you are good people, you're good to each other, and you're good to God, you'll have nothing but blessings, and the curses will never happen. Yet when we look at Jewish history, it's clear that all of the curses in this week's Torah portion and the 98 curses in the book of Devarim, they all came true. And yet, they didn't have to come true. The same thing with all of the warnings, the dire warnings of the prophets to the people at the time of the first temple, the time of the second temple. And they warned the people over and over again. You just have to change your ways, and these prophecies which I am giving over to you from God will not have to happen. So here we see that just like there are physical laws in the universe, there are also spiritual laws. And just like in the physical world, we have the idea that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So when we look at the dynamics of what's called reward and punishment, cause and effect, and a measure for measure, so we see that all of these curses, even though it's written in the Torah that they're coming from God, but it's through our choices that we end up in the situation where these curses are brought down upon us. And this really answers why there is such harsh language in the Torah. And the language of the prophets sometimes was almost horrific in its the picture that it paints. And yet, none of it had to happen. And a good metaphor for this is a parent will say to a child and try to teach the child, don't put your hand in fire. Because if you put your hand in fire, you will be burned, and it will really hurt, and it's very serious. Or how a parent tries to teach a child, don't run out in the street without looking both ways. Because if you do, God forbid, you could be hit by a car. And so this is the formula, this is the situation. if the child does not put their hand in the fire, they will never be burned. And if they don't run out into the street, they will not be hit by a car. The Torah sets up a similar type of spiritual law here. At the end of the curses in this week's portion, so it ends up with God saying the following. God says, I am not revolted by them, nor am I sickened by them. That even when they are in the land of their enemies, I will not leave them, and I will not annul my covenant with them, because I am their God. So here God is saying, just like any parent who at a certain point has to discipline their child. But at the same time, they send a message is, I'm disciplining you because I want the best for you. There's certain lessons that you have to learn. But I'm always your parent. I always love you. So we have the same kind of formula here. And as I mentioned, we see that all of these curses came true because of the choices that the Jewish people made through the ages. Yet, God has never forsaken us, and we have never forsaken God. The covenant still exists. And if we look at the book of Devarim, so it really goes one step further. Not only will God not abrogate his covenant with us, but it says very clearly, and this is repeated by all of the prophets, that after a long, hard, and harsh exile, that God will gather us up from the four corners of the world and bring us back to the land of Israel, and we will rebuild the cities, and we will turn the desert green. And all of that will happen before the advent of the Messianic era. So just like all of the curses have come true, we're seeing now all of the good prophecies are also coming true. Right now, all of Israel, all of the Jewish people are being challenged with tremendous opposition. We are at war, and anti-Semitism has spread all over the world. It's affecting Jewish communities everywhere. And sometimes it may look bleak, but we have to see the bigger picture. Approximately 140 years ago, there was almost literally a few thousand Jews in Israel. And here we are 140 years later. We have this dynamic country that is a world leader in so many things, in agriculture, in solar energy, in water purification, in every branch of technology. We're an absolute powerhouse. And yet, these last 7 or 8 months, we have, in a sense, gone back to the traditional anti-Semitism that we have faced throughout all the generations. But we can't lose track of the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is all of the good prophecies are coming true. We are living examples. We are fulfilling history right now. And though things may seem bleak right now, great dynamics are happening. A much bigger historical force is playing itself out, and it's all been predicted. We just have to be strong and double our faith, double our prayers, and stand up for our right to the land of Israel, our right to be Jews without having to be afraid. And we will see, God willing, the fulfillment of all the rest of the prophecies that will bring us to the Messianic era and the ultimate peace and harmony among all people that we long for.